watermelon lime today. Lime. All right, let's take a minute here to just appreciate this beautiful set of tricep extensions. Same exercise as every other video previously. Same thing every time you click on it. I feel like this was a quality set. We got 13 reps, smooth and controlled, good stretch, nice extension, not fully locking out. I want to keep the tension on the tricep muscle the whole time. Fully locking out takes away from this. Also ruins your rhythm in terms of keeping the weight in constant motion. I don't really like to pause at the top when there's no tension. So nice full extension, nice control. And then the 13th rep, we're kind of hitting failure. I'm sort of grinding it out, using a little bit of, gumption. Oof, nice. This was the third working set. The first two, I got 14, which is, a noticeable increase from a week ago or a couple weeks ago. And the first set, I thought, maybe I'm just going faster. Because this is the thing. When you're chasing progressive overload, if you speed up even a little, you're going to be able to get an extra rep. So then set two, I was like, well, let me make sure I really emphasize slower controlled tempo, get the stretch, get the squeeze, and I still got 14. And then the one we're watching, I'm like, this looks pretty buttery smooth. Anyways, a moment of appreciation for a really quality tricep set, because my bicep, if you watch the previous episodes, my right shoulder, 2 workouts ago was bothering me, limited my ability to train the biceps, and then last workout was a little better. This workout was worse. I actually was not able to even use my regular weight. I had to just concede to going lighter, and in particular at the top of the movement is when the pain is the worst, and so I feel like I was kind of avoiding coming all the way up, and I'm kind of milking some partials because the bottom of the range of the movement isn't really causing pain. So we're trying to find a way to still train the biceps to stimulate some growth, but a little disappointing. I'm not exactly sure what the root cause is yet, but we've had many injuries and issues before, and we continue to find ways to work around them, work through them, learn from them, find management strategies, figure out what's the root of the problem, and I have full confidence that I will continue to do that. And it's annoying and unfortunate in the short term, but overall, every little bump in the road forces you to adapt and become a little more resilient, a little bit smarter, a little bit stronger. So it's not really a bad thing. The other message I wanted to put out there to you guys today is that, again, I don't think I'm hot shit or anything, but, if you're watching these videos consistently, it's repetitive. It's the same 2 arm exercises. I did legs yesterday. I've been meaning to film my leg workouts, add a little variety. A few of you have been asking. So next leg day, 5 days from now, I will film. I will record a couple of my split squat sets, and we'll talk a little bit about that. But I, primarily my upper body has grown from this one tricep exercise. It's all I'm really able to do. And mastering this one movement, not by choice, but by circumstance, I've learned a lot of things from it, and I've seen a good amount of growth, not only in my triceps, but also in my chest, shoulders, and lats. We haven't done any other exercises other than standing curls, which standing curls, maybe it's getting a little delts, maybe it's getting a little bit of upper back because I'm kind of pulling my shoulder blades back. But it's not really hitting, even if you train them super, super hard, your forearms, your biceps. But the tricep movement, it's the chest is getting stretched, the lats are getting stretched, the shoulders are being recruited, and it definitely stimulates a lot of the surrounding support muscles. And I think the truth of working out, which, I've kind of landed in this place where, like, I'm making other content, other videos that we're getting more views, getting more clicks, but what I'm doing now, uploading this, like, this is the reality. And not to say that you have to just do 2 arm exercises. You could still have some variety in your, but it's just repetitive, consistent, bring the high intensity, and just keep evolving and pushing your routine to get more demanding, to stimulate more muscle growth. And that's it. And every fancy new video that people come out with, reduce your volume, increase your volume, the slow tempo, fast tempo, the science, new study comes out that shows this, and then all the bro community reacts and says, no, actually, we get more growth from this. And people are just, and that's what people want to watch but and I get it. It's more appealing than seeing a guy do the same 2 arm exercises over and over. But what I'm trying to communicate or show you guys is this is what the process really looks like. And even if you could train, or I could train more body parts, it would be the same. There'd just be a few more different exercises in there. And then you got to tighten up your relationship with progressive overload and finding a way to get stronger. Tighten up your relationship with your execution, your form, and learning from your body, listening to your body, finding ways to warm up and stay healthy and avoid injury. And then you just keep showing up and hammering, finding ways to push harder and continue to chase progression. That's really it. And it's very bland and simple and not entertaining necessarily. But it's the truth. It's the fucking truth of what working out actually looks like. And I think the unfortunate reality is most people don't, it's too boring. It's not exciting enough. They're always looking for the next fancy thing. And I just got to a kind of place where I was like, this is the actual truth. This is what it actually looks like. I was talking about my sets, talking about the reps, talking about the shoulder issue, and it's just another upload, and you just keep going, you keep stacking, you keep pushing. You have to be consistent, and you keep finding ways to progress. It's about habits and, challenging your psychology to shift your habits so you can be consistent, so you can not get stuck in an ideology and keep evolving your training, being willing to try new things. Like and that's not fun and sexy and exciting. It's not a fun new video you could talk about. Like, there's nothing else to say really about working out. And I feel like a lot of the content that is educational based is really just entertainment. Like, if you find it entertaining and you want to watch videos like that, then I think that's fine. But I think it's actually counterproductive. You think and I've gone through that process. You think you're learning, how can I progress more? I better watch this. I'm interested in working out. I need to learn this. I need to learn that. And not to say there isn't some room for education and some know-how that you can acquire, but it's immensely simpler than people are portraying it, for their own personal monetary gain, to sell you on something. And most of the results lie on the other side of making the really difficult habitual changes and changing your lifestyle. And they're just hard things. There's no video, there's no education, there's no trick, there's no new study that can do that for you. It's just difficult to change your habits, to prioritize something, and then to do a physically demanding activity over and over and over again, and then keep being hungry enough and ambitious enough, I guess, to continue to evolve and progress your training. I think that's how you can stimulate more muscle growth and build muscle, the thing that a lot of people want to do. Or if you're watching this channel, surely you're interested in it to some degree. That's what the truth is, and that's why I'm kind of that's what's most interesting to me, is like, how can I continue to evolve this process to create the most muscle growth and the most impressive physique that I can for myself. And this is what the process looks like. And I don't think there's that much a representation of that to people. And I do believe that if there was more, personally, there'd be less to gain, because you're not manipulating anything. You're not, taking advantage of an audience that wants to hear something else. you're just force feeding them the truth. I do think that it would be a net positive. I do think most people would be, because you need inspiration. So if, somebody who has a lot of people looking up to them, they consistently put out content, they consistently put out a message, they're providing inspiration. That's amazing. That gets people moving. And then if you just give the true message, like, it's not that complex, man. It's going to look repetitive and boring like this. You can make adjustments to your training. You can try new exercises and different splits and stuff. But for the most part, like, it's just going to be, I don't find it boring, but it's going to look boring in comparison to the way that most of the content and most of the narrative around fitness is, where there's a new topic and a new video every day, like rehashing something and like looking at it from this angle and that angle. And there's a huge demand and interest in working out and, being healthy, gaining muscle, changing your physique. I just feel like the majority of people are just falling into that trap, which I fell into as well, where it's not. And again, the reason I'm saying inspiration is sometimes, when you're just starting out, it doesn't matter, and you don't necessarily need the direct truth immediately. Like, I found it over time, but I would have found it sooner if there wasn't as much misrepresentation for personal gain. There was as many people, putting out a new training philosophy and a new theory and, yammering on about optimal splits and whatever it might be, and it's not all bad, and there is some room to educate yourself if you're new, but quite quickly, if you're really seeking the truth and you really just want results, you will realize that, okay, I don't need to watch another video in terms of I need absorbing knowledge to figure out what to do, and I don't need more education per se. Maybe I need more inspiration because I need to find a way to be more consistent, to keep showing up, or to want to experiment with some new rep ranges, or push a little harder with more intensity, or try some drop sets, or whatever it may be. So, and in my case, it's like a overly simplistic version. Hey, what you barking at? Where I'm just doing kind of these two exercises, but the whole point that I'm trying to make is that even with those limitations, which I think the more popular narrative would lead you to believe that, the results are not possible. Or, I think it would lead you to look at my physique and go, what? Like, how are you building some chest? How are you building, how are your arms growing with only two exercises? Like, you're not isolating the lateral head and the medial head and the long head and the biceps. You're doing one exercise. Like, how are you achieving that? How is it possible that you could grow, your shoulders and your back doing this? What I think is that it leads credence. Is that the right word? What are you doing, buddy? To the point of the things that actually matter more. So even if you restrict some of the things that are, portrayed as important, like exercise selection, isolating different muscles. And in my scenario, it's this circumstances where it's like, okay, we're going to remove your ability to adjust those tools to optimize them. You're going to have one tricep exercise, you have one bicep exercise. It's all you're going to be available to do. But if that's your situation and you max out consistency, intensity, and some form of progression, which are all habitual actions and a mindset shifts, then you can still get a pretty amazing tangible result. The inverse, which I don't know who we could point at, but I'm sure there is individuals out there that have optimized their exercise selection and are doing all the perfect exercises, the perfect combination of movements to hit all the muscles in their body the right way, and they can train their whole body. There's no limitations. They can do all the exercises and they can do all the optimal ones, but they do not master consistency, intensity, or progression. I guarantee that they have way worse results than me. So what I think my situation illuminates is that really the most important things are those three foundational components of consistency, intensity, and progression. But how much of that's probably 90% of it. The other 10% of what's the best exercise to do, what's the best rep range, what's the best I mean, I would say some of those things are built into progression. Progression, I mean, just you have to keep adapting your training. You have to find ways to level it up. You can't be doing the exact same routine you were doing a year ago with the exact same weight, no changes. There needs to be some evolution. So a lot of those workout details like are kind of baked in there. But still, I kind of lost my train of thought. Let's have a drink. What was I trying to say? Hey, buddy. Yeah, I can't remember. Felt like it was something good, but the consistency, the intensity, and the progression are the most critical things, which makes up 90% of it. And the other 10%. Oh, yeah, that's what I was going to say. So then if we agree that, 90% of the actual results in terms of muscle gain, that's what we're going for at the end of the day, hey, dude, are going to come from those three foundational factors. And 10% is maybe from optimizing your exercises, trying a new set structure, reading a new study about tempo, and tweaking some of these things. Then in an honest, truthful world, 90% of the content would be about, it's simple, man. All you got to do is focus on consistency, intensity, and progression. And only 10% of the content would be on, here's a new study on volume, or here's my opinion on rest times, or here's, on tweaking these little workout structure details. But that's not the reality. The reality is the exact inverse of that. 90% of the content is on, you got to do this new exercise to explode your chest. And how do you grow an upper chest properly? And it's all about exercise selection and tempo, these little details. And almost never do you hear the mentioning of, okay, well, like, how consistent do I need to be? Is it important to train consistently, or can I just do this like once every couple of weeks, or do it consistently for a week and then fuck off for a month? I'll talk about that. How high of intensity, how important is that? What's the relationship with learning to push my body? And then how do I progress this movement or this method over time? Like, I get a good activation of my upper chest using this angle and this cable and adjusting this position, but then, as the weeks and months and years go on, how should I be thinking about adapting it to continue to stimulate more growth? You don't really hear those things. And I've heard the kind of rebuttal to that is that, well, like, people, like, none of these content creators or scientists are saying that you're not supposed to do those things. Like, they're all still saying that, that's not like they disagree and they're like, no, you don't need consistency. You don't need to train with high intensity. Although, there was quite a push for a significant amount of reps in reserve for a while. Seems to be losing a little bit of steam, but for a while there was a lot of people arguing you don't need to train with high intensity. But for the most part, there's not like tons of voices and narratives out there saying you don't need to train hard, you don't need to train consistently, you don't need to train with progression. They're not directly opposing that. They're just not highlighting it. So their stance would probably, like Jeff Nippard's stance would be like, oh, Jeff says you got to train hard, you got to be consistent, you got to progress. But 95% of his content is not about those things. He'll just layer it in and be like, of course, none of this is really going to work great if you don't do these things. But the previous 14 and a half minutes of the video was about breaking down tempos. So it ends up, if 90% of the results were going to come from these things that you just put as one sentence in the video, and the other 15 minutes were about something else, it signals to the viewers that, okay, that's what you're saying, but like we're focusing so much energy and consciousness on these other aspects, so they must be important. And the sad reality is that probably 99% of people don't master those simple fundamentals, and they don't get the results that they want. And part of that is because they're fixating on details and knowing and data. Like, people in terms of what you should do for working out, I say, like, most people know like most of the information. Like, there's not really a shortage of access to knowledge. There's a shortage of habits in consistency and discipline and pushing yourself physically and challenging yourself to find ways to evolve and progress. That's where the shortage is that leads to the lack of results that people don't get. Now, some people do get good results, but you're really going at it. Yeah, I hope that you can see the kind of hypocrisy, and it doesn't really. And so why would that exist? It's because people are creating content for personal gain, not to give you the most honest, truthful message of what to do. And maybe if you consume some videos talking about tempo and rep range, and like you do that for a year, and it is enough to spark your interest, and then you're able to discern yourself, like, oh, this stuff's not really that important, and I need to like assess my habits to get more results. That's great, but I just find a lot of people don't do that. A lot of people just get stuck fixating on these details because that's what they're being fed, and subconsciously they don't really necessarily want to make the hard changes. So you're kind of like, I'm just going to keep my habits and my mentality the same, and I just need to watch another, Renaissance periodization video, and this is the thing I need to see more growth. And we're going to find out that lat pull downs are no longer good, and that's like the key thing that I needed this week to get me there. And again, if you like it for entertainment, like people are really ripping Dr. Mike, it's like, I disagree with a lot of his takes, but if you like him because he's entertaining and he's charismatic and he's funny, which I think he is those things, then you can keep following him. Like that's no issue. If you just want to be entertained, you want to watch the Trend Twins for entertainment, that's a different thing. You're just looking to get entertainment and laugh. You relate to the person some. It's not really about the knowledge of what's accurate, but a lot of the content is about what's the accurate way to think about training. Like, how do you look at these things? Like, how do I need to think about training to get the most muscle growth? That's what you want at the end of the day. That's why you're trying to learn and educate yourself, because you want more muscle growth. So I'll watch this video that's going to help me think differently so I can get more muscle growth. Takeaway point is 90% of the content should then just be hammering into your brain over and over of what the process looks like. Consistency, intensity, some form of progression. And that's what these videos are. And again, my scenario is not what I'm saying everybody should be doing, but I do think that it illuminates that if you do have limitations, even in this unique situation, I've been able to produce, I think, a result that most people would think is not possible, only doing 2 arm exercises. Again, I don't think I'm all fucking hot shit or anything, but just objectively, like, I didn't think it was possible, even in my own mind. When I first started getting back into working out like 5 years ago, I was just like, oh, I can do an overhead tricep. I can like just train my triceps and get a pump in my tris. Like, I haven't been able to train any part of my body for like 2 or 3 years with intensity. Like, this is great. I was just happy to be able to like train for muscle growth again. And then as time went on, things just kept evolving. I just kept showing up. And one thing led to another, and I started, the overhead dumbbell tricep extension. Eventually I started doing that. It's a similar movement to like, I was doing a bodyweight skull crusher. So it's kind of the same movement, but you're just using your body weight and your face down with a bar in front of you, as opposed to being seated with a dumbbell behind you. But the movement is basically the same. And I started to notice the rest of my upper body grow some, and yeah, one thing leads to another, and this is where we're at now. And yeah, it's just mostly all created through continual development of the 3 fundamental factors: consistency, intensity, progression. And then maybe the one other thing I would say is like addressing lifestyle recovery things too. It's like those are all sort of things you do with your habits in the gym and stimulating muscle growth. But then consistency is eating right. But those things apply to your training, is kind of how I'm talking about it. But then how you go to bed, or what your sleep looks like. Are you disciplined with that? What does your eating look like? What does your stress levels look like? What does your recovery look like? Are there additional things you could be doing to enhance those things, to support your training, to get more growth? That would kind of be maybe the 4th layer that I would say is, as long as those things aren't horrible, that's not really something you need to optimize until you get to like really advanced levels, like 10 plus years in, and you're still looking for more growth. It's like, well, maybe my nutritional timing could be a little better. Maybe my overall food selection could be better to reduce inflammation so my body can recover faster. Maybe my sleep schedule could be improved a little bit. Maybe my stress levels, maybe I need to go get a massage or do sauna 3 times a week, or do some meditate to relax and slow my body down so I can have less stress and recover and put less of a demand on. Like, those are all things that, as long as that category of like lifestyle, recovery, diet, sleep is not horrible, it's not going to stimulate more growth. You're not gonna grow your way to gigantic arms by sleeping 12 hours a day instead of 7. So it's like, as long as you're getting like reasonable sleep, your diet is like reasonable, you're eating at least some healthy foods in terms of having enough nutritional intake to support muscle growth, not putting, body fat percentage aside. If eating too many calories, you're going to be fat, but it's going to stop you from building muscle necessarily. Adequate nutrition, reasonable sleep, and like a reasonable lifestyle where your stress isn't through the roof, I think if you are doing all those things, you'll be able to see a good amount of progress. And then as you get way more advanced, you could tweak those things to optimize them further. The one caveat I would add is, though, if you do kind of live a party lifestyle and in particular drink a lot of alcohol, it's like, even if you have a good sleep and if you drink a good amount of alcohol even once a week, it's really going to hinder your progress. Doesn't mean you can't make some progress. Doesn't mean you couldn't be in shape. You could still be lean. You can still build some muscle, but it's going to slow it down a lot. And it's going to make it hard. And it doesn't mean you couldn't maintain a pretty good physique and still drink. Like a lot of people are, I still drink. But it's like, if you're really trying to add a lot of additional muscle mass, consuming large amounts of alcohol, even if all your other lifestyle factors, your sleep, your nutrition, your stress are good, it's just going to kill a lot of that progress. It's going to make it really hard for your body to recover. It'll probably reduce your success by like 50%, or like you're going to build 50% less muscle. I was pulling a number out of my ass, but it's something like that. So, binge drinking and getting, real drunk, which a lot of people do. It's fun. And I'm not giving life advice whether you should do it or not, but the truth would be, if you really want to prioritize muscle growth, you're going to have to let go of like partying and drinking lots. You're going to have to be sober Sally, or have enough discipline to just have 1 or 2 drinks and, try not to stay up till 3 a.m. Anyways, thanks for tuning in. And, hopefully this, again, it's just talk. And at the end of the day, this is the message I want to put out through action, of continuing to show what the workouts are like, and they're simple. And ultimately I want to, inspire you guys through the progress that I make. I don't really want to change the way I'm filming the videos, the topics of things I'm talking about. Like, those things to me are all distractions. I want to inspire you by like, wow, like, he's making more progress. He's gaining even more muscle. His arms are getting even bigger, or his physique's getting a little leaner. Like, I want my actual progress, because at the end of the day, that's what most of us are after, being interested in gym content and being interested in going to the gym. You want more progress. And I don't, I think it's easy to make content and focus on other ways to get views and traction. And, I look at other, like, I don't really want to consume a bunch more content of somebody with their physique has been exactly the same as it was 10 years ago. Doesn't mean they don't have valuable information, but like, I'm more inspired by, this is personally me. Everybody can create whatever content they want. I personally am more inspired by somebody who I can see them evolving and I see them progressing. That fires me up the most, because that's the hardest thing to do. It's not as difficult to me to do something wacky and, copy Rich Piana's 8-hour arm workout and make a video about that. Like, you'll get views, or do a 20,000 calorie challenge, only eating vegetables, or like something crazy like that, or to, make a video reacting to Jeff Nippard's latest, video. And I don't think that this is the right way to train, or he's, lying about body fat percent or whatever, like, those will all get more views. Those will get more traction. And I've dabbled in some of those things. Hey, buddy, you're eating a shoe. But at the end of the day, that's not nearly as impressive to me. To me, the content I see that fires up the most, like somebody who's like, you can see them progressing in the gym, like week to week, month to month, year to year. They're like morphing and transforming their physique. That is the coolest thing, the most impressive, the most inspiring thing to me. So therefore, that's what I'm trying to show in my content, is to make the actual progress, and not so much talk and argue with other people or debate and to create all this fluff that's just going to get attention and clicks. It's like, here's the real process of what my process looks like, and judge me on my results and the progress that I can make. And hopefully that, inspires it. Hopefully, I'm projecting in that's what I find the most inspiring. So I'm hoping that other people, you guys, also find seeing that progress the most inspiring. And that's, the best. The message that, I'm happy to put out there is that I think this is in line with the truth of what working out and stimulating muscle growth really looks like, even though it's boring and doesn't get as many views. And this is also what I think can inspire people the most to also make change in your life and find more ways to get growth out of your training and build more muscle. It's something you want to do. Obviously, you desire that. So it's the more of a positive result you can get in that area, the better your life will be, in theory, right? So the more that I can contribute to that in the most truthful way, so far as I see it, the better. So anyways, not that you needed an explanation, but that's the reason that the videos are the way they are right now. They're the same thing over and over and over and over. And I just share with you what little lessons or little thoughts and insights I'm having with each session. And then, any of you that are watching, I'm glad to have you here. And hopefully you stick along for the ride as we continue to progress our way all the way to 21-inch arms and who the heck knows what else. Thanks for watching. Go make some gosh dang gains. Cut out the noise. Stop listening to the fluff. And assess what difficult habitual changes you need to make to get more results. Because that's what will produce the most actual increase in muscle gain. All right. Arm program, as always. And also on the site, if you haven't heard, all things enhancements, hormone enhancements I talk about in full detail, transparency. So if you're interested in that world at all, you want to know the protocols that I'm running, all of that is on the website so that you can, educate yourself and not make a bad decision. I'm not promoting you do any which one thing in your life. I just think we need more transparent discussion alongside transparent, display of what does your physique look like? What kind of progress are you making? There's a lot of people out here talking about these different compounds, but they never show their physiques. It's like, okay, a lot, but like what? And you've done a lot, but what results did you get? Like, it's hard to, do I want to listen to this person? Like, I don't even know what you look like. So you can see my physique. You can see the progress I'm making. And then for a small fee, I don't really want to share that information publicly on YouTube. I think it will, this is a choice. I want to make some, if I'm going to share the details of my blood work and all these things I'm doing, I want a small monetary compensation for that. So this is my decision. If you think, talk about it openly and just tell us, well, you know what, man, at the end of the day, it's my choice. So the website costs $9. So if you really care about learning about some of that stuff and getting access to, all my personal anecdotes and things I'm experiencing and learning, I'm not an expert. While you can see the physical progress that I'm making, which is what I've said this in other videos, I would, in the past couple of years, considering doing this and learning about it, it was really difficult to find any sources of like, what should I really expect? Like, give me a visualization of somebody's physique and how it changed and what they're doing and what are all the consequences. And I think it will really help anybody who's interested. I mean, most people who go to the gym have at least considered it to form, a better decision and be able to acquire more of the truthful knowledge of what to expect and then come to a better conclusion that's right for you. And I think a lot of people would actually decide to not do it if given the truthful information. So that's what I'm trying to do, so that, people can not make a mistake, because it could be the right thing for you, depending on your life, your circumstances, your psychology, your goals, what you're going for, or it could be totally the wrong thing. And ultimately you don't want to make a decision that you regret, whichever path you want to go down. You want to make a decision that's as close to properly informed as possible so that you actually get results, a life and an outcome that you desired. And I'm not here to tell you what to desire, but I want to give you the information that I'm, acquiring or experiencing, things I'm going through, so that you can hopefully factor that in and come closer to making the right decision. It's not something to take lightly. So that's it. Have a good one. Peace.